USA! 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 USA!
Hey y'all, Independence Day or the 4th of July is almost here, and we have been talking about why we celebrate it. Did you know the longest part of the Declaration of Independence is the grievance section? And the one grievance out of the total 27 you were taught in school, no taxation without representation, probably wasn't the most important to the colonists. Today, due to time constraints, we'll boil down all the different grievances to better understand why we separated with the King of England. Hey, Greg Niblock here, the reset button lawyer. You know me for helping people since 1988 hit the reset button on their bills and credit through bankruptcy, on the insurance company to recover money for folks injured or, Lord forbid, killed in an accident, or on the government for Social Security disability or tax resolution. So the colonists believed the king had systematically stripped them of their rights as English citizens. This, you'll see, is the bottom line of why they wanted to separate it. However, let's look at the different categories of grievances they had. First category, law. This is the first of the repeated injuries and usurpations detailed in the Declaration. The colonies were required to submit their laws to the king for royal assent, meaning approval, before they could become valid. The king would withhold his assent, effectively vetoing colonial legislation that he disliked. This happened frequently, and the colonists saw it as overreaching. Also, under the category of law, abolishing English law and establishing arbitrary government and enlargement of its boundaries. This refers to the Quebec Act of 1774, which granted expansive religious rights to the French Catholics of Quebec and expanded their territory into the American Midwest. This would secure the British absolute loyalty of that province and provide a military base for operation and establish a heavily centralized government loyal to the king. Adding insult to injury, 10 years ago, the colonists helped the British defeat the French in the French and Indian War, and now the British were treating the French better than they were. All right, next category is administration of justice. The right to trial by jury had been restricted, and judges were hired and paid dependent on whether they would follow the king's will. Additionally, some criminal charges required the accused to travel all the way across the ocean to England for trial. The next category is trade. England didn't allow the colonies to trade with any other nations and enforced heavy restrictions on them. Then the Intolerable Acts came and cut New England completely off from trade in its entirety in retaliation to the Boston Tea Party. These policies made the colonies completely dependent on England and grew England's wealth, not the colonies. Next came the taxation without representation category. Now the Stamp Act taxed paper products. The Declaratory Act declared British Parliament had the taxing authority over the American colonies and could tax anything they wanted. And then we had the Act of 1773, the Tea Act. This final act taxed tea and led to the famous Boston Tea Party. The next category is expansion, immigration, and naturalization. The colonist population was small, but they wanted to encourage additional migration to enhance their economies and political power. The king, though, believed the colonies were becoming overly populated and independent-minded. Therefore, he delayed and prevented new migration from England, as well as other parts of Europe who were not necessarily loyal to the king. The colonists wanted to expand their territory west of the Appalachians, yet the Royal Proclamation of 1763 prevented such expansion. This was infuriating to them because some had already gotten large investments in Western real estate, and the common man wanted to be able to migrate out there too. The next category is standing armies and forced conscription. Now, the French and Indian Wars had been won in 1763. The colonists expected the British Army to go home, yet it remained permanently. The colonies were required to take the soldiers in and help pay for their support. This was an imposition to suppress the colonists' popular will and enforce the king's taxing policies. Additionally, large armies of foreign mercenaries, i.e. the German Hessians, were hired by the king, and the British military was independent and could circumvent the colonist authority. Moreover, British soldiers were protected by mock trials, shielding them from punishment from murders they committed. This was a reference to the Boston Massacre, when shots were fired into a crowd, killing colonists with minimal consequences to the soldiers. Finally, the British Navy would force colonists into the Navy and made them fight against their fellow colonists. The next category is inciting domestic insurrection. The king did his best to turn colonists against each other, and he was now using Indians to raid against the colonists. Next category is the king declared the colonists out of his protection and that they were rebels. This is what the king declared after the colonists' last attempt at peaceful negotiation, called the Olive Branch Petition. We talked about that earlier. What this meant was the colonists believed the king was waging war against them. Wow, the British king and his parliament had stripped the colonists of every vestige of self-determination and just wanted them to work hard, shut up, do exactly what he says from an ocean away, and then for the colonists to send him the wealth they created. In other words, their English citizenship had been totally stripped from them. They were mere vassals of the king. All right, so you can see the king, he ain't a good guy. And the parliament, they're putting a thumb down on the colonists and they ain't gonna take it anymore. So, we hope you enjoy our video, Independence Day, the American grievances. And we'll check out our video tomorrow, post number 5, the Declaration of Independence, the signers who risked all. I think it's really important to kind of look at the signers and what happened to them. Meanwhile, please know that here at Niblock & Associates, we stand ready to help you with bankruptcy, personal injury, wrongful death, Social Security disability, and tax resolution. If we can ever be of assistance, just give us a call or visit our website. Also, if you enjoy our videos, share them out to your friends and follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So until next time, hope y'all have a really blessed day. See ya.